Welcome to my class, The Psychology of FinTech. I'm Andy Kim, an Associate Professor of Finance at SKKU Business School. This is a special course designed for international students from all around the world who want to make friends with Korean students, and then for Korean undergraduate students who want to make friends with international students. I want you to take it as a chance to both developing your intelligence and then developing your understanding about psychology of fintech, and as a chance to make friends with students from all around the world, right? Different countries and different backgrounds and diversities, so that it will be enhancing your life experience, hopefully. Okay. Now, introduction about the class, right? The market, especially the financial market, is driven by psychology. The market has two emotions, they say: fear and greed. Over the past 2 years, ever since 2020 actually, we experienced a total fear in the beginning of 2020 because of the COVID-19 crash. And then right after that, the market bounced back too quickly, and we've been experiencing greed, ultimate greed, so that the stock market bounced back to the original level and then more than recovered it. And then, bubble took place, especially about the tech stocks, among which fintech stocks belong to. And then since last year, 2021, right? We've been experiencing market crash, especially this year, 2022. Over the past 3 months, the U.S. over the past 4 months, U.S. stock market experienced a 22 percentage point down in S&P 500. And then what's the fear that is driving us, right? Stagnation or stagflation, or the inflation fear is capturing the whole market psychology. Okay? The information content of it is important, of course. Information about the cash flow and then risk, which is the fundamentals, right? Fundamental economics is important. I understand that. We all agree that the market is a mechanism that enables us to reallocate the resources in the most efficient manner, following the thoughts of Adam Smith. The price is an invisible hand that enables us to allocate our resources in the most efficient manner. But the rational explanation about the market is not sufficient. In theory, market is efficient, but in reality, what we experience is not. Okay? If you look at the Kosdaq market index, Kosdaq is equivalent to Nasdaq, the tech stock market in Korea. Today, the index went up by 5 percentage points. The index level, okay, day by day, 1.5 percentage point up or down is just no surprise. It's one standard deviation, roughly. But 5 percentage point is more than 3 standard deviation above the mean. Total surprise. Was there any specific news about it? Why the news about why the stock market has to be like that in the first place? No. It was total sentiment that was driving the market. Only the people try to interpret why the price went up like crazy, instead of having a specific news that drives the stock price in a certain manner. It's all about psychology. It's all about sentiment that drives the stock price going up and down. Again, we know by learning economics basics and finance basics that our buying and selling decision has to be perfectly rational, cold-blooded manner. Unbiased manner, we have to buy and sell the stocks. But in reality, we are not doing that. We are animals altogether. we have hot blood circulating in our bodies, and that controls, our brains, right? Functions in an interesting way, so that we tend to follow the crowd much more. And then that screws up our money. That's why we need to study the psychology of the market. And then especially today, we need to understand the FinTech in the context of this market psychology. So that's the purpose of this class. Now, let me introduce myself over here. I have my YouTube channel, Dr. Finance. So go ahead and Google search it and like and subscribe. Yes, I upload many of my class material in this YouTube channel so that you can watch it for free. And then Prerequisite, financial management, at least some economics training. I want you to have it. This is a summer class, and then it's more of a pass or failure class. So it's not going to be too much demanding in terms of academic, right, or mathematical, right, ways. But it's much more qualitatively driven class, and much more fun, that means, right? And then accessible to many students, regardless of your background. So I welcome many of you who are coming from English literature or psychology, and I hope you take it as an opportunity to expand your understanding into different places, like more quantitatively driven area, by going through these fun materials. So Dr. Finance, I told you about it, and then something more about myself. Well, before we go on further, please don't get confused between me and Professor Kim Young-han 교수님 Senior. I'm junior, and he's 10 years senior to me. And he belongs to the economics department of SKKU, and he also has a summer class about international trade. But me, I belong to the business school, so we belong to different college within the same umbrella of SKKU, but we are different professors. We often get each other's email, wrongly directed emails or phone calls, right? So I get phone calls from great places like Ministry of Labor or Economics of the whole country, looking for him, not me. So he's a great professor. So if you like international trade, go ahead and take his class. But me, I'm behavioral finance and FinTech, or psychology of FinTech professor over here. About myself, yes, I've been a professor of finance at SKKU ever since 2015. And I was area coordinator of finance in 2020 and 21. And I was a program chair of GBA, as a program director of Global Business Administration, which is the flagship program of SKKU, undergraduate program. I was proud to do that. And then before joining SKKU, I worked for Professor of Finance at NTU in Singapore. NTU is Nanyang Technological University, which is the MIT of Asia. Some of you from Hong Kong may have a different idea, HAUSD, but come on, NTU is the best one in terms of technology. And then, just like MIT has Sloan School of Business, NTU has a business school, Nanyang Business School. That's where I was teaching for about 5.5 years, right? And that's where the students get a lot more quantitatively driven business education. So that's why the students in that school get great job opportunities from all around the world in banking industry. And PhD in finance I got from Minnesota, and then the University of Minnesota. I'm going to talk about this many times throughout this semester, together with Chicago and Carnegie Mellon, because this is one of the flagship university in terms of neoclassical finance, 신고전파, okay, traditional and more mathematically driven and economics driven university. I got my MBA at the same university, and before that, I worked for Bank of America Seoul branch for about 2 years as corporate credit analyst in their GCIB division. And before that, I got my BA degree at Yonsei University, and during my undergraduate period, I belonged to a marketing club, marketing circle, I would say. Especially, I was more interested in advertisement or more creative marketing side of the businesses. Some of the undergraduate students in Korea get puzzled. Oh, you're a marketing guy, and how could you teach finance? Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. And even though I was more interested in marketing, okay, by the time I was graduating, we were experiencing terrible East Asian financial crisis in the country level and the whole continental level in Asia. And I had a sense of mission, and I had a question. Why did we have to suffer such a terrible currency crisis and banking crisis together? We call it twin crisis. Why did we have to suffer? And is there any way we can avoid it in the future? And I thought, maybe the banking sector sucks, and then we need a solid, well-functioning bankers in our country, or maybe in Asia. So I wanted to become a professor of finance that could train the bankers in a right manner so that they could function well, so that we would be able to avoid future financial crisis. That has been my only career dream ever since 1999. So whatever I was, into before did not matter too much. So I wanted to get a job in banking. And then in terms of banking, I wanted to learn it from American system, right? Bank of America was one of the best banks in the whole world at that time. So I wanted to, learn from them. Luckily, fortunately, my prayer was accepted, I guess, so that, I was, able to come through this path right now. And a couple of things more to tell you about my experience is that every time I was in the job market, we had huge financial crisis. 1999 or 98, we had East Asian financial crisis. And when I was in the PhD job market in 2008 and 9, we had Lehman Brothers, right? The crisis in global financial crisis. What does that mean for me? Terrible job market prospect when I was in the job market. Here, it was extremely difficult to find any job openings. And there as well, all the universities got hit by their budget crisis because of this financial crisis of the whole system. What did I do? I sent out my resume, hunting high and low. How many resumes? 75 different places over here. 150 different universities and institutions here. Okay? What's the implication for you guys? I want you to send out your resume as aggressively as possible, as many as possible. I said 75. It's not 7 or 5. 75. Here, 150. So how many resumes have you sent out so far? Whenever I talk to my undergraduate students, they say 5 only, or 10 maybe. But literally, you have to send out much more than that. Okay? So hunting high and low. Don't be like snobbish, right? Go for everywhere. And then by sending out 75 different resumes over here, I was able to get 3 offers. One from L'Oreal, the marketing company in cosmetics. And number 2 was Samsung Life Insurance. Because Samsung is Samsung in Korea. This is a republic of Samsung. So you have to have something related to Samsung. I was almost becoming a Samsung guy at that time. And then I got finally a job offer from Bank of America. So I had a luxury to choose into this banking instead of the other two. To have this kind of luxury, you need to send out your resume to many, many different places. And number two, over here in 2008, I was fortunate enough to get a job offer from the University of Cambridge from Britain, the Uxbridge, Cambridge. Yes, I was very fortunate. I was about to go there, but NTU in Singapore got back to me and said, we want you. So we're going to pay you 3 times the amount of Cambridge. So thank you. I should go there with my family, 2 daughters and my wife, right? 4 people, right? So it made great sense for us to go to Singapore. So we had great experience, a very unique country. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to highlight is that, if you have a chance to visit Singapore, this is a great country. So go ahead and, have some experience over there, right? Before Singapore, my world was totally US-centric or Euro-centric. But with Singapore experience, I realized that the world is really round, and the center of Asia is not Korea, but Singapore. And then there are a lot of interesting activities and then interactions going on in the southeastern Asian countries that we just cannot miss. And that it has been a heart of the international trade ever since the Middle Ages. The trading of the peppers and then the seasonings and things like that. So very, very dynamic economy going on. So have your eyes open. Okay, open your eyes to this Singapore and Asia, Southeast Asian countries. Anyway. So that's my teaching areas over here, behavioral finance and fintech, and I also teach data science and hedge fund and intermediate corporate finance. I used to teach it in global business administration, and international finance. I'm teaching it in the fall semester. If you are familiar with the foreign exchanges and things like that, that's my subject. And CFA Research Challenge, this is extracurricular student activities that I supervise. I've been supervising it for many, many, many years, even in Singapore as well as here. So if you are interested in this kind of research challenges, you can ask me. And Southeastern Hedge Fund Competition is the one I supervised in 2021. And my proud students got into that final list, competing against London Business School's PhD students. Can you imagine that? Undergraduate students competing with PhD level students and got into the finalist, right? So I'm very proud of my students at SKKU. By the way, SKKU is Asia's oldest university, established in 1398. And it's not, of course, a university in the European sense, because there was no interactions with Europeans from, this far east to the far west over there. In our sense, this was our university because it was the highest educational institution. The objective was to educate the future ministers, right, or advisors to the kings. So it is located right next to the king's palace. You see over the fence, you see the secret garden, which is a part of the Joseon dynasty's palaces, right? Changgyeong Palace that you see, it's just a walking distance. So this is the place where the government officials got off from their chariots or horses. That's we call it hama pyong, right? It's like hama pyong. It's like a hama, which is like coming down from the horses. Why? To get to the kings. You cannot come to the kings on the horses like a ruler. You have to get down, and then on your feet you have to go walk to the kings from here. So that's why. And then legitimately, this is the oldest university in Asia. So for international students, I hope this is going to be a very unique and interesting experience in Asia. And for Korean students, not many of you realize that this is Asia's oldest university. You always understand this is Korea's oldest university. Come on, wake up, open up your eyes, right? You must be much more proud than what you are right now. Okay, you must be proud of yourselves much more. Anyway, my research area is behavioral finance. It's about the study about the impact of psychological and biological traits of the CEOs on firm risk, M&A, and corporate finance decisions. How to capture the traits and through big data approaches. Such concept as overconfidence and facial masculinity and things like that. Now, many of you aspire to become strategy consultants in McKinsey or Bain, and then BCG, right? But have you thought about what kind of CEOs would be more likely to listen to your M&A advisories, right? Some CEOs are more inclined to those M&As to grow their business fast. Some CEOs are reluctant and then they try to grow slowly but steadily. Okay? For consultants' perspective, which one would be more beneficial for you? I am teaching you which one will be much more beneficial for you, right? By looking at their face, you can determine, pretty much tell which one will be more open to the idea of acquiring other companies. If you're interested, take this class. Stay here. Stick your butt, man. Right. And then facial masculinity, you can also click this website and then upload your face pictures, front-facing pictures like this, so that it will measure your width to height ratio. Not this height, okay? That's a tricky part. So neutral facial expression, enough of a distance, and then facing front like this, right? And then you have to upload it, and then you can determine, and then not to determine, but you can compare with the average facial width to height ratio of the CEOs in Korea as well as in the United States. Anyway, it's a fun part. Anyway, if it were offline class, I must have turned the microphone to you guys so that you will introduce among yourselves as our icebreaking chance. But this is online based video recording that I do. So next week, once we meet in a offline basis, I'm going to give you the chance to introduce yourselves, right? Course assessment about this class. Well, midterm movie review is going to be 25%. Fun. The Big Short. Yes, a famous finance movie. And I'm going to give you specific questions that you have to answer. It's not a random review that you have to write whatever bullshitting. I have specific questions for you. There's a trick as well. So get ready for that. Final exam, right? Given that this is, 1 month class, right? We just need one final exam, I think. Otherwise, it's going to be too much torturing. And remember, this is a monsoon season, 장마철, right? It's already, right, very annoying for you. So giving you midterm exam will be like torturing you too much. So final exam, I say 35%. And then instead of group project, I just give you book review task, okay? 20% of your grade. Attendance and participation, 10% each. And accordingly, the total will be 100. Is that right? 25, 30, 60, and then 80 and 100. Yeah. Now, midterm movie review, The Big Short, okay? Wait for that. That's something you can purchase in the YouTube, okay? Go ahead and watch in detail. You will have to do that. Now, book review, 20% of your grade, review any one of the following books. You can buy one from Kyobo Bookstore in Gwanghwamun right away, right now. Okay. Korean translated versions are also available. So it's good for both of you, Korean versus international students, both of you, right? More specific questions for each book will be given to you later, maybe next week. You can submit it from the second week. So what are those books? The first of all, this is The Voice by John Colapinto. This is not really a book about FinTech per se. It's not about finance, but it's more about the voice, digital analysis of your voices or language that you speak, verbal language, right? If you are more of this kind of, if you're interested in this kind of language learning and then the voices, you're going to enjoy this, love this book very much. This is written by a famous journalist at the New York Times and one of the best sellers. And here you will see some chapters like, what is it? The voice of leadership and persuasion. Why do we care about it? Because the CEOs are in the leadership. Okay. And then it has a lot of interesting things about, the voices like baby talk, origins, and emotions shown in your voices, and the language. Nowadays, people try to capture your emotion by digitally analyzing your voices. Is it scientifically backed up? Read this book. Okay. And one of my research agenda in my research working paper is about the voice analysis of the CEOs of the banks, right? Wall Street bank CEOs voice pitch tells a lot about their risk preference, because this has to do with your testosterone level. Testosterone is a male hormone. Biologically, it is proven. Scientifically, it is supported. So that deeper voice means a lot. Okay, so you will love this book. And if you don't like it, right, Rethinking Narcissism, this book, okay, by Dr. Craig Malkin of Harvard Medical School, right? 자뻑 or narcissism. Oh, I'm so sexy, right? That's narcissism. But every one of you, every one of us, we are all narcissistic to a certain degree. Did you know that? If you thought that you are never narcissistic, but the other guy's over there, I hate that guy because he's narcissistic or she's narcissistic, wake up. All of us are narcissistic to a certain degree. That's what this book is about. But the problem is, then the issue is, what's the variation of this degree of narcissism? Okay, you can measure, and you can check you can go through some of the surveys over here, questionnaires, 30 questionnaires, and then find out how much narcissistic you are, right? And maybe you can test it for your friends or girlfriend, boyfriend, and see how much they are narcissistic, and then determine how much fit you are with each other, right? You talk about MBTI, but the MBTIs are bullshits. One thing I have to tell you, given that this is a psychology class, right? MBTI is never backed up by formal the science, and it's not in textbook in the United States, whereas narcissism is a legitimate measure about psychological biases. And this bias has a lot to do with understanding your CEOs, like Tesla's Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the ex-US president, right? How would they behave? You can pretty much predict by reading this book, okay? And if you have these narcissistic guys around you, what do you have to be careful about? And if you yourself are narcissistic to a certain degree, how should you be careful more or less, right? In what respect do you have to, it gives you a great answers. And then the third book is DeFi, and the Future of Finance, written by Campbell Harvey and then at all his gangs, right? This book, I guess some of you must have experienced cryptocurrency investment. Raise your hand if you invested in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the altcoin or Tapcoin, right? I bet you must have done it, right? Given that you are young blood, right? So how do we understand those decentralized finances in much more formal way, right? Instead of following the crowd and crazily, investing yourself, and then suffer from those fears and then the greed, all the way up and down, right? How can we better understand those decentralized finances? Okay, this one, right, written by Campbell Harvey and at Duke University. He is one of the godfathers of financial economics, one of the big shot guys in the whole world in finance, right? He wrote a thin book about it, okay, the decentralized finance. So go ahead and read it. And also you can find his YouTube lectures about this book, okay, a series of lectures. So I hope you will enjoy it, and you take it as a chance to understand the FinTech, right? And the psychology of these narcissism. Why do we care in terms of FinTech? Well, understanding the CEO is a big subject, okay? The psychology of the the psychology of the leaders, right? Because it affects the stock price that you invest in, all right? Accounting performance as well is very important. And those in the retail banking, if you understand how much narcissistic a person is, you can predict about their consumption behavior and their future bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, because conspicuous consumption never helps your finance. So more likely to go bankrupt. So it must help your understanding. Is there any way we could digitally understand it? We're going to go through that part in this class. Very fun. So wait for that one, okay? Now, tentative class schedule looks like this. We're going to start with FinTech and AI in finance. Are you ready? In this class. And then, why do we care about efficient market hypothesis in the second class? Because market psychology, it starts with the neoclassical building block. Neoclassical basic is about efficient market hypothesis. The traditional finance, mathematically oriented, the economics drives everything kind of understanding. That's our starting point. And then we're going to pick on that one, right? This is going to be efficient market hypothesis is going to be our straw man theory, a straw man theory. And then we're going to add our flesh and blood, and then, not a cold blood, the hot blood, and then our emotion, right? Called behavioral finance or psychology. So economics plus psychology gets together. That's behavioral finance. And nowadays, FinTech is really combining these two. Okay. The third week, we're going to talk about red flavor. 빨간 맛. 궁금해하니? Yeah. Psychology of color and momentum trading. Okay. What's so special about being red? Not orange, but red. Okay. And then Warren Buffett is famous for his value investing strategy. How is it? Okay. How can we compare this with Eugene Fama's efficient market hypothesis? Is it the same thing? I'm going to test you later on. And then we'll move down to the impact of mass media on the stock prices. These days, given that the information gets priced in the market and the information is given to you through mass media or social media, the impact of media is non-trivial. Okay, sometimes it generates some overreaction, so that a bubble takes place. Okay, it could be short-run overreaction or long-run overreaction. And media-driven is typically short-run overreaction. There I have a paper about investor psychology surrounding Gangnam Style. If you don't remember what Gangnam Style is, Google search it, and then you will realize, oh, that's about the rapper Psy about 10 years ago, right? And then social phenomena was there, and there's a stock related to this. A bubble took place, and the Eugene Pharma got into this one related somehow. You're gonna, be surprised to see my video. Okay, by the way, you can Google search and YouTube search my video about this paper. And then the next class we're going to talk about COVID-19 and the stock market participation of individual investors. We're going to talk about this prospect theory and expected utility theory. And then we're going to move down to how to measure the sentiment. I told you the market is driven by psychology, and then the sentiment is really affecting the price day by day. And that is non-trivial. It is really affecting our money, screwing up our money, sometimes hopefully, and then helping us earn our money, make money, hopefully. Sports sentiment and stock price, how to quantify this crowd psychology. We're going to talk about that. And then we'll move down to these short seller story. Okay, short sellers and the high frequency traders, GameStop debacle, and then Volkswagen and Porsche short squeeze. We're going to talk about that. Did I say debacle? No, GameStop frenzy, I should say, right? And then we experienced a very famous short squeeze, right? So very interesting stories waiting for you. Elon Musk, the Doge father, a narcissistic or overconfident. We're going to talk about CEO psychology from the following class. By that time, you have to submit the movie review, because the short squeeze or short selling related stuff will be discussed over here, and this is about the subject that we talk here. And then the following days, it's going to be about CEO psychology. Okay, biometric data. Your hand tells much about your risk preference. And then the next one is about the face of risk. Naver versus Kakao. If you're new to Korea, you have to be familiar with these two names, because the most influential, everybody uses Kakao Talk for their personal chatting services, right? And then Naver is equivalent to Google in terms of the search engine in Korean language they use. So those CEOs or the founders of these two companies have very different face shapes. That tells a lot about their investment, the management behavior, M&A behaviors. That's what I do in my research, and I'm going to share this in this class. And then that is here, the CEO psychology already leads us to the usage of alternative data. Moving down there, we're going to explore into satellite alternative data. How is it used in our InsurTech or RegTech and microfinance and ESG? ESG has been the buzzword in our generation, in your generation. But how can we leverage this alternative data for better ESG investment? You're going to study that part. Yeah. And then the blockchain and cryptocurrency, we're going to talk about that. Given that some of you must have screwed up your investment life with, by investing in, some of these cryptocurrencies. Hopefully you made money. Okay. Hopefully some of you may make tons of money by then, but don't go there with leveraged position. Don't do it with borrowed money. Only with your pocket money you can do it, but otherwise you're going to be, ruining your lives. Anyway, blockchain, that's going to be an interesting subject to talk about. And if things permit, we may have a guest speaker from the industry. Okay. And then the final exam will be on the final day, right? So it's going to be an exciting journey, I hope, right? So I hope you guys enjoy it. And then the next video, I'm going to set the tone of this class further down. Right. So thanks for watching until now. Thank you.